Hello, everybody out there in second glass land, watching, viewing, enjoying. I'm Chris, and it is Cellar Chats time. So, this week we are focusing on Spain. Because you know what? The wines are delicious. Why else would we focus on anything? Because they're delicious. I am here at Second Glass in the cellar, as per usual, for the weekly flights and cellar chats. So we are going to go from coast to coast across the northern reaches of Spain. We're going to start out in Catalunya, over in what is technically the Cava Dio, but we are not drinking a cava. I will explain what I mean by that a little bit shortly. This is Raventós y Blanc, their Denit Rosé. And then we're going to hop all the way across to the opposite coast to Ribeiro, just inland from Rías Baixas, where you get the home of Albariño. We're going to do Kunduavia, their white blend. And then we're going to hop all the way back over to Catalunya to Montsant for Llenca Plana for their little delicious Montsant blend. So, without further ado, let's hop into it. So, Reventos, these guys, this family is, really probably as important to sparkling wine production in Spain as just about anybody. The family has long been making wine, and for many, many generations, they made what was Cava Dio wines. But then Pepe Reventos comes along, young, handsome, amazing guy, and says basically, no, I don't want to be part of this cava thing where our wines are way more distinct, way more interesting, and we are being watered down by being associated with the grander cava. Now, as a whole, cava is great. It's delicious. It's made like champagne, traditional method, can be wildly complex, but his argument was basically the same argument that a lot of people make about regions that are kind of getting watered down, is there's too much land, there's not enough regulation, and the quality control just isn't there. So he says, nope, I'm out. One of the first to do it, and basically says, I'm going to go do my own thing with the historic area, which is, I'm going to butcher this name, I don't speak Spanish, the Conca del Roy Anoia, which is a little confusing because there's also a winery called that, if I'm not mistaken. But this, basically, from the get-go, he started making wines under that, didn't disassociate from the Cava Dio, and to be honest, the wines have never been better, and he has no trouble selling. And since then, several guys and girls have jumped ship, and they've started making what would historically have been Cava wines without the Cava Dio denomination. What does that mean? Well, it just means that it's not labeled the same, but it's coming from the same place, made with the same grapes. This is mostly Sorello with some Macabo, Paella, and Monastrell, which you get this beautiful, this is a rosé, but it is extremely delicate. For me, this has been, I don't drink a lot of Spanish sparkling wines, but the Reventos wines are really special. Pepe does a couple of different projects. He's got some single vineyard stuff. He does this. He does some still wines. He's very into organic, biodynamic viticulture. He does a lot of horse plowing. He's removed all herbicides and pesticides. The guy is on the up and up of all of the things that you want to hear about great wines. Oh, and the wines are freaking delicious. So let's get into this wine. Right off the bat, on the nose, kind of white raspberry, little citrus, kind of a flinty, kind of mineral character that's really lovely. Oh, great, beautiful, persistent bubbles, excellent freshness. There's really nothing else to be said. This wine is killer, such a good value, such a good deal, and always happy to have it on one of the flights here. So again, that's the first one in the lineup, Raventós y Blanc. They are technically within the Cava Dio, but this is not a cava wine, but it is freaking amazing. So that is over in Catalunya. Now we're going to jump across the country. We're going to land over near the Atlantic to Ribeiro for Kunduavia. So Kunduavia, let me finish my bubbles here. Kunduavia is a relatively new project started by a group of friends. This is a relatively common theme particularly in Spanish wine that I've come across. in this area. Group of buddies get together, decide they want to start making wines from the ancient and traditional grapes and varieties from these vineyards that have basically been ignored for the last, several decades, and they come at it with a natural mindset, and they just start making exceptional wines. I mean, literally, you could just, if you put that out there to like 5 different wine guys and said, hey, do you know a Spanish wine that's like this, if you didn't know the name, and they'd probably all come back with a different winery, all doing similar things. These guys got started, I want to say, maybe in like 2017, give or take. They got going, and they've been kind of like crushing it ever since. So this is kind of ancient varieties that are native to this area. It is primarily Trijadura and Albarino with a little bit of Ribeiro, Lado, and kind of Blanco. Yeah, I know. A bunch of things. You know all of those, right? You drink those on a regular basis. I know I do. But a lot of what they do has to do with just sourcing from old vine material and doing what we'll call like a field blend. They just, go out in the vineyards, they gather up all the fruit at basically the same time, they press it, they ferment it, they age it, boom, call it a day, and they happen to make really delicious fresh wines. So this has got just a beautiful color on it, a little golden in color. If I'm not mistaken, I think it gets a little bit of skin contact. They do some whole cluster pressing, so it's not, I would not call this an orange wine. It is not an orange wine, but there is some texture and mouthfeel you're going to get from those skins, which is just a very traditional way of doing it. I do believe they do all their fermentations in like big concrete lagars, which if you Google that, it's essentially just like a concrete box that's on the ground that they just kind of throw all the fruit in, and that's where the fermentation happens. So very old way of doing things, very simple. Concrete kind of maintains temperature, it keeps things from getting too hot, but it also keeps things nice and cool, which is the same thing, only said different ways. In the wintertime, it helps insulate if it's cold outside, but it also helps keep it from overheating. So it does both. There we go. That's a little more accurate. Wow. I have not had this vintage yet. That is really good. The nose is a little bit more subtle. The Reventos had a lot of, like I said, that white raspberry kind of fruit character and mineral. Here it's a little bit nutty, kind of like apricots and, stone fruits and things of that nature. The palate is really beautifully textured. It's not like heavy, viscous, like a fuller bodied Chardonnay, but it's also not like super light and clean like a Sauvignon Blanc. I'd call middle ground here. You're getting that texture from the grape skins that they leave in contact for a little bit. And plus the grape varietals, Trijadura is, notably known for having like a fuller mouthfeel. I think it has relatively thick skins. Albarino obviously brings a lot of freshness here, and then the other grape varieties have their own things. I honestly don't know what they are, but I know it tastes good. And this is like a great, again, middle ground. Like you're going to a party or you're out with some friends and you want to order a bottle of wine, and everybody wants to have white wine, but your one friend wants Sauvignon Blanc, your one friend wants Napa Chardonnay, and you're like, I don't like either of those. You pick this, it goes down the middle. It's got that texture for the person who's loving that big oaky Chardonnay. It's got the freshness for the person who loves Sauvignon Blanc, and it's neither of those grapes, so then you're happy. So it's a win-win. Ideally, it's delicious, and you should come out and enjoy it on this flight. Wow, what a great wine. All right, again, that is Kunduavia, their Colleita number 8. This is, again, white blend from Ribeiro. All right. We're going from the Atlantic coast. We're going all the way back to the Mediterranean, over to Catalunya, to Montsant, which I affectionately just call Baby Priorat. It's probably not doing it much justice, but it's a great way to refer to it. It's also how most people think about it. My phone started acting funny. Sorry about that, guys. So this is primarily, and my brain just stopped working because my phone was acting weird, Carignan and Grenache. So very traditional blend of this region. And the reason that a lot of people use the term like Baby Priorat is that Priorat at least in this market and from, my selling history with wine, was like one of those Spanish wines that people really jumped on. It was considered prestigious. It's an amazing wine. There's some really incredible producers there. High elevation, beautiful like schist soils. It's got all the things that make people happy. And then you've got basically a much bigger region that kind of like encircles Priorat called Montsant, which all similar varieties, somewhat similar soils, much lower elevation, a lot more land, but you get a lot of similar winemaking, and a lot of the guys that are in Priorat make some Montsant. So it became really popular as being baby Priorat. Right or wrong, it's an easy way to talk about it. These wines tend to be fruitier, lusher, really soft. These guys are relatively small and also relatively new. They don't own a ton of vineyard land. They make, I can't remember what it is. It's, about 12,000 bottles a year, give or take. All of their farming is done organically. They're, again, checking all the boxes. They're doing all the right things. But in this region, you tend to get a little bit more like new oak influence. You get this kind of what I like to call modern Spain, not new Spain, modern Spain. And what I mean by that is this kind of like, enveloped palette of new oak, a little more spice, a little more richness, that kind of lends itself to like an international palate. And this wine does that while also hitting all of the check marks that you want it to, like clean farming, no nonsense, no additives, no junk. It is big on the nose. For me, I'm getting lots of oak spice, kind of like dark brambly berries, maybe a little bit of plum, blackberry. Definitely some freshness going on here. I can feel the acidity in the wine. Yeah, that's great. Again, fuller mouthfeel, good fruit concentration, lots of richness, lingers on the palate. The tannins are fairly soft. They're not really heavy or intense, which makes it really good. And there's plenty of acidity here that I wouldn't hate it if this wine was a little bit chilled. It's not, even though it is full-bodied, it's not going to be overly heavy for summertime because let's face it, it's like 105 in the shade outside today, so it's intense. The last thing you want is an overwhelming red wine, and even though this has a lot of intensity, it still has freshness, which makes it perfect for a summertime flight. All right, so let's quickly wrap up for this week's Cellar Chats. Remember, the weekly wine flights start tomorrow here at Second Glass because, well, it's Tuesday, and they're closed, so it starts tomorrow. This is, starting out on the flight, Raventós y Blanc, their Denit Rosé. So good. I mean, anybody who loves champagne who doesn't love that is lost. Kunduavia, their Colleita number 8 Blanco, little white blend from Ribeiro. And then back to Catalunya for Llenca Plana, their Montsant blend, Carignan and Grenache. So good. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great week. Stay cool. Take care of one another. Come enjoy some flights. And I'll see you next week. Bye.